able to know the right thing to do. So, any idea of what stakeholders mean? Any attempt? Okay, some
workers, yes. The management team, the customer.
The customer. Yes.
Then the staff. Yeah, including the management team.
Everybody. So you can see, so it's good as HR. We must have it at the back of our mind that when we are talking about stakeholders, it's not only your staff. Do you know the spouse of your staff are your stakeholders as well? The children of your staff are your stakeholders. So as such, when we are presenting, when we are trying to define or when we are trying to develop a kind of organization brand, all our stakeholders must be put into consideration. So looking at it, it talks about all the total value proposition organization promise is stakeholders. So let me pause again and ask. So let's look at this diagram. When we talk about organization branding, we are talking about, number one, let's look at what is there. We looked at your organization identity. If I ask today, sorry, I just want us to be practical, and that is the way I always facilitate. I want us to be practical. We are Nigerians. I know other people may be joining us. But what can we really say about the civil service and the private sector in terms of organization branding? So this time around, I'm talking about organization identity. So today, if I ask you, what is that core thing that you can talk about the Nigerian public service or civil servant in relation to the private organization, what will quickly come to our mind? Can we make attempts?
Job security.
Job security. Okay, so job security in where?
In the public service.
In public service. Okay.
Yeah.
So in private sector, what happened?
It's not the same. It's not the same.
It's not the same. Yes. Okay. Divine is raising his hand. Okay, Divine.
Okay, sir. What I will say about organizational branding in the public sector and private sector is that those in the private sector take the business as if it's their own, while in the public sector, they just do it anyhow, like they don't care.
Wow, 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 wow. So you see, what are we saying? That is organization branding in its own self. So in other words, people have a perception, whether we like it or not, branding is more of a perception. Now, people may say perception may be reality or not, but in this sense, whether we like it or not, there would have been a reason why we have that perception. And we are saying no. In public sector, even though they're able to give us what we want, but what really happened? Maybe the way and manner they always treat transaction. Okay, so again, let's go in terms of, can we look at in terms of decision making? Which one is faster, public or private?
Private. So much bureaucracy in public.
Bureaucracy, how? Can we explain? Hello?
Yeah, decision making is very slow in the public service. You have to go through one office to another before you get what you're looking for. But it's faster when it comes to the private service. I mean, it's private entity.
Thank you very much. So now, okay, Divine again, you want to make an attempt?
It's still the same thing that he has said.
Okay, so you can see on that, on the branding, that can fall under organization culture. So we can see in the private sector, the kind of organization structure, culture they have is that, oh, their decision making is fast. Why? Because there is no bureaucracy. But when you talk about public sector culture, we talk about bureaucracy. It's not that they won't get the work done, but it will take time. Whether we like it or not, all these are organization branding. And because this thing is not only limited to the organization, the general public is seeing it. So there is a way it will affect the people that will always want to join your organization. So in other words, when we are not talking about employer attraction, So to us again, if I put it to us, let's ask. So now, if you have, although you know we have talked about the private sector, the public sector, they have job security. In private sector, where your job security is not guaranteed. So now let's look at employer attraction. So both private and public, which one do you think we attract more employee for you in terms of recruitment and selection? Hello? Are we together?
Okay, let me just try. I don't want to be sentimental here, but I will give it up to the private sector because
despite the fact that the private sector do not have job security. Is that what you mean? Despite the fact?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much. So again, I'm just giving us this background information so that let's know the core of today's discussion. So that when we are talking about organization branding, we are not talking about all these buzzwords. They are not abstract. They are real things that we can connect to. Now look at it. When I talked about another thing that your employer organization branding can do is employer image. So I want us to mention some private organizations today that immediately you even see their staff, you will know that this staff work with this organization. Can we mention some organization? They have not even put on the logo of the company, but maybe their dress mood or anything, you just quickly say, oh, this person. So can we talk about that? Yes, Divine. Yes, Divine. The floor is open. Oh, thank you, PwC. Yes.
Okay, we have bankers and we also have those that work in the oil and gas sector. When you see them, you know, yes, these ones are, this is where they work.
Okay, so let's talk about those bankers. Which bank? I know the banks people have offended us in the last.
UBA staff.
Yeah, UBA staff. So what is that thing? What's that thing that is unique about them? What's that thing that you know that is a UBA staff?
Number one, their dress code, their white and red clothes.
So my colleagues, you understand what organization branding is all about? It's not really something big. It's not something that we use big English to confuse ourselves. They are very minute. So as such, is good. So you know now, right now, that some people naturally, people will just feel that, wow, I love this. I love to work in this organization. Just the way some of us always proud with some football club, that is the same way some people will be proud with that organization, even though they are not staff of the organization. So as such as HR, when we are talking about organization branding, we are talking about the total value proposition that you are promising your stakeholders. You know, again, I've said it, the stakeholders in this is not only to the staff. The general public are there. Do you know that the general public, the way they perceive your brand is the way they will treat your staff? So sorry, let me ask. Immediately you see Nigerian police, what comes to your mind? I want us to be more practical so that we have something to take home. Our time is fast spent.
How many, please?
Nigerian police, how will you relate them to employer image? What's your perception?
Bribery and corruption.
So now if you now see, you know, that is a general perception, right? It's a brand. It's a brand image. So what do we need to do? So as some people are seeing Nigerian police as that, and that is how it will be to some organization. And that is why we HR, we have to be very careful in the way and manner we treat people. So let's move on quickly so now looking at it, this is the whole summary of the process. And this is where I want us to talk more. So again, the essence of employee branding is that, don't forget, we want to attract people. In other words, we want to be able to recruit good hands. We want to be able to retain our talents. That is when I say retain, we want to keep them. Even though if they will japa, we expect them to work 5-10 years with us. Not only that, we want to develop them, right? So that is the philosophy behind organization branding. Now, outside that, what are those things that will really make organization, to really make your stakeholders to buy into your organization? Talking about social responsibility, again, can we mention 2 companies in Nigeria that when we talk about corporate social responsibility, they are top notch? Can we mention? Please, let's talk.
MTN.
MTN. So what does that thing they do?
Well, as per their corporate social responsibility, from the little I've seen, like in terms of healthcare, education. Yeah.
So this corporate social responsibility, who did they do it for?
To the community.
To the community. So do you now see when we started, I'm saying that, look, when we're talking about your stakeholders, it's not only to your staff. Because MTN has done it for the community, there is a way the community will always want to treat and respect staff of MTN. So as you, the HR, the organization, you are treating your staff well, there is an outside image with the community that the community is looking and say, wow, oh, you work in MTN? Oh, great, I love and all these things. And whether you like it or not, you begin to boost the self-esteem and morale of your staff. So at that level, you now go back to the second aspect of what I talked about, retention. Because the person knows that the organization I'm working for is when. So that of exit that haven't checked our records, we discovered that you have spent 35 years with us. Therefore, we want you to go. Thank you. Again, let's talk about good conduct. Can you mention one organization that when this issue of good conduct comes, what comes to your mind? Which organization? I want us to, why I'm saying we should call names of organization is that is what it means, so that by the time we are going back to our own organizations, all these are the things that we can do, so that I'm not just saying we have to learn. No, we are not learning. We have to practicalize it. So let's talk good conduct. Which organization always in Nigeria? Okay, somebody say Total Energy, right? Yes, let's talk. Are we there? Hello?
We are with you, sir.
Okay, so I'm saying, I hope you are seeing my screen.
Yes, sir.
So
multinationals.
Multinational. So why do you choose multinational? What did they always do that is good in their good conduct? What exactly did they do?
They try to align with the standard practice. When we talk about HR standard practice, international or global standard practice, they try to align to that compared to the indigenous companies that we have in Nigeria.
So you can see. So it is good to understand that as HR, as we are helping our organization to build that organization branding in order to attract and retain and develop talent, we must ensure that we support the organization in making sure that everything we do seems to be right and have that good conduct. And in essence, it falls into our ethical standard as well. Then talk about reputation. Then let's look at can we mention a company in Nigeria that is committed to diversity and inclusion? You know, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, there are two different things, but they seem to be speaking to the same thing. Yes, you can say in the name of diversity, we can bring in people, but do you really have a policy in place that really include them? So can we mention two companies off air that when immediately you mention diversity and inclusion in Nigeria, You quickly click to that company. Can you mention? Hello? Are we together? Okay. Friesland Campina, right? Which other one? Diversity and inclusion.
Dangote Group.
Dangote Group. So are we saying in our company, we that we are seated on this floor, are we saying in our company we don't have this? Let's talk now. Mr. Tokwe.
Yeah, I'm listening to you.
So you see all of us happy. In other words, HR. So you can see it's that time we stop all this big grammar. And let's come down to reality. Honestly speaking, that is why they hardly take us serious. We HR. I am an HR person, and I'm always happy to always talk the real life when we meet ourselves. You see, all this big grammar that we are speaking, people don't take us serious. HR is not grammar. HR is practical. So when we are talking about employee branding, it's something that we will do and people will feel it. So if in our organization we don't do it, I don't know which branding you are talking about. So that is it. And that is why I make it so practical. So that our lesson learned from this discussion is that we will go back and begin to activate those things. It is when you begin to activate this thing gradually, that is when people will say, wow, that organization. So you don't need to place adverts as HR. People naturally have heard so much about your organization. You will just, any day you open your email address, you will see unsolicited CV. Not anyhow CV. People with experience, people with competencies, people, think about it. By so doing, you are helping your organization to save recruitment costs. Because already people know that this organization have this in place. So it's not until you come to interview and people begin to ask you, okay, if I join you now, what would you offer? Because they are seeing it and they are perceiving it. Let's quickly move on. When we talk about innovation, which company can quickly come to aid to our mind in Nigeria when we talk about innovation? Hello? Are we together?
InterSwitch.
Innovation. I guess it was InterSwitch that said they will be paying spouse allowance, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let's clap for them. So you can see that is branding. So you can see my wife now begin to say, go and work for InterSwitch. Oh.
They declared this guy. They declared him. What kind of rubbish is that? This guy did not win. Obi was even leading in.
Who is talking? Oh? We are not talking election here.
He was leading in terms of number.
Mr. Tokwe, we are not talking election here. We are talking about organization branding.
Yeah, it's not the number guy.
Yes, somebody say Cowridge, right?
25% in all states, including
sorry, somebody hijacked this platform.
That's what I said. You remember what I mentioned this morning?
Hello. So we talked about InterSwitch, right? Are we together? Hello, can I get a confirmation?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we are together.
Yes,
so
yes.
InterSwitch, as simple as that is part of what? Branding. So you will now begin to see children begin to shout on their parents now, Daddy, go and work in InterSwitch. Because they know that if you work in InterSwitch, what will happen? As you are receiving your salary, your wife or your husband too is receiving, and you'll be able to take care of your children. Yes, let's talk about teamwork. Which organization comes to our mind when we talk about teamwork? In Nigeria.
Anyway, my
Oh, teamwork. So there's no fight, there's no conflict, and all these things. Look, what I will get or not, I do apply. I'm coming on Third Mainland Bridge. I always see, it's something I do notice. I'll see some cars, maybe due to overheating, they will break down on Third Mainland Bridge. But I always see people, maybe you see, I don't know, but I guess those people, they work together. You see people that work in that organization, maybe the person would have called them, Mr. Tunde, my car. And you let us see, when they are coming, they will all stop on Third Mainland Bridge, trying to help the person to fix the car so that all of them can move together. Whether we like it or not, that is a teamwork, and it speaks to employee branding. It's not only, so when we are talking about employee branding, we are not talking about the logo alone. We are not talking about the structure of the organization alone. So you will see people who say, wow, I love these people. I'm speaking reality. If for some of us that always pass through Third Mainland Bridge, going forward, always observe. You see people in suits helping to open bonnets and all these things. I begin to see it, I say, wow. So invariably, you will see those boys that always sell things on Third Mainland Bridge, all these people that sell, think about it. Hey, you see that they'll fold hand. They're looking at, wow, this thing is real. So you don't need to talk much that, oh, our organization brand. No, they have seen it already that this is teamwork exists in this organization. So as HR, what is our role? I'm not saying that we should go and tell our management that they should go and build a big billboard and all these things. No, let's start with the minute. Work-life balance. Or they say we shouldn't say work-life balance again. They say work-life integration. Okay. So let's mention one or two companies again in Nigeria that immediately you mention work-life balance or integration, you quickly think about them. Yes, Divine.
Okay, I will talk about Total Energies, because most times, like, they make work flexible for staff, like 3 days in the office, 2 days from the house. I think it's okay.
You can see. So that is part of what we call organization branding. Well, let me admit that there are some work for now. Maybe the remote work may not be visible for them. But look at it, how we can introduce that kind of work-life balance. So that let the community in which that person lives, that estate, live and say, wow, oh, this man, I love his company. If they are in work today, on Sunday, on Thursday, they won't go to work. You know, that kind of thing. It creates sense of employee branding, organization branding for the stakeholders. And people will always want to work for such organization. Then as we move on, let's look total reward. Now, I understand that when we talk about total reward, I'm talking, so let's start with basic salary and all these things. Abi? In this, I won't like us to mention names of organization, but this is my own perspective about it when we are talking about employee branding. You may not be paying your employer big salary, but you see, when it comes to regular and timely payment of salary, it goes a long way to boost your organization branding.
Your employee, you meant to say?
Yes, when you pay your employee their salary regularly, that is what was agreed is 24th of every month, right? And you pay them as at when due. Invariably, you are helping to boost your organization branding. We may not know. We will look at it, what's the difference between 24 and 25? My brother, there is a difference between 24 and 25. If you have agreed, so I'm not in this time, in this, when I talk about employee branding, I'm not talking about, yes, millions, because you can be paying some people millions, and yet the salary is not regular. So by the time because they know that you pay them, right? Your staff will not be going to market and be taking IOU. Until when you now pay, because you say it doesn't matter, I will still pay your 1 million. But it doesn't matter any day I pay you. No, it matters when we talk about employee branding. So you will now expose your staff. They are now vulnerable. They are going to, even to drink pure water or bottled water, your staff have to go and take it on IOU. That don't worry now, you know my organization paid me 1 million. Therefore, after any day they pay my salary, then your children, your community people, everybody now begin to pray and fast because they don't know when your salary is coming. It's affecting organization brand. Then lastly, or not the least in that category, is career growth. If people could not perceive that people will grow in your career, I'm telling you that aspect that we talked about. Yes, I can tell you when people are looking for a job, right? People can make your organization to be a kind of a stopgap. But in reality, they will never stay. If they couldn't perceive that, or if there is no, it's not even perception now, if they couldn't see a career path that will lead to their career growth. So looking at all these things are what help us to build organization branding. So as HR, so when we are asking ourselves, what is our goal? It's not to talk about big grammar. It's just to look at all these things the way they are. Are they in our staff book? If they're in our staff book, how do we start to implement them? And by so doing, you'll be able to take your stakeholders along. Then as I begin to round up, you can see it, which I've summarized. We have talked about what it is. So whether you like it or not, employer branding, which in some textbook or some literature, that is what you will see, employer branding is number one, internal culture. Is, you know, it radiates from in, out. So it's not the number of corporate social responsibility that you do that will matter. But can people see your organization? Can they see that in your staff? You know, at times, look at it, I always tell people, sorry, I'm an HR person. I do tell people, I say, look, any organization you are joining, immediately you join the organization, or before you even join the, no, you may not get that information before you join the organization. But if you join the organization, the first people you should be looking out for are those that have spent 5, 10, 15 years in that organization. Look at their lifestyle. Look at the way they are. If you can really assess that, so I can tell you it's good to now take your decision and say, well, this organization, I don't think I'll stay late. Because if people can stay 5, 10 years, and this is how their lifestyle is, this is their life, there's nothing to write home about. So why must you go there and stay long? And I'm now giving back to this. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say it, but it's just for us to get the reality. You know, despite the fact that the civil service have that career job security, you know, one of the things that scares somebody like me away from civil service, I'm not interested in what I will get now in civil service. I fear that what is the essence of having a career security of 30 years and after retirement, you have nothing to show for it? That you begin to sleep under the bridge in order to access your pension. Thank God for the Pension Reform Act. That I guess in part of addressing that was what gave birth to the Pension Reform Act of 2004.